So this is official that this will be the first week where all 11 MLS games except for free national televised game from now on is going to be on ESPN Plus, and that MLS Live is no longer a thing anymore. It has been defunded, and pretty much from now on I can only watch all of these other MLS game, all the other out of town kind of games on ESPN Plus. And for those of you that don't know ESPN Plus, it's basically kind of like a streaming device where they show like other sports content that didn't really make the cut of ESPN 1 and 2, and it's kind of like watch ESPN 2.0 pretty much. I mean, it is kind of like the same thing. They show other contents. It's not just MLS games that they show. They also show like other kind of sports like basketball, baseball, hockey, stuff like that, and also some past documents. And for those of you who wonder how much it's gonna cost, it actually only costs $4.99 per month, and that I think is $50 per year, I think. And also until I think April 19th or April 18th, ESPN Plus is going to be free for the first month if you, of course, sign up. So, yeah, it's a win-win kind of thing if you're a kind of MLS fan like I am that want to watch other games. And certainly, I need ESPN Plus to watch all these games and do these kind of reviews and preview video for you guys. But either way, let's get into these games, and I have a feeling that this is going to be a long one because there's going to be 11 games, which is the maximum number of games that an MLS season can have. And there's going to be 2 on Friday, there's going to be 7 on Saturday, and there's going to be 2 on Sunday. Most likely, I am not going to be able to watch the Saturday game because I have a sports hop in the afternoon to do, and then I have this game that I'm going to be attending on Saturday evening. So yeah, most likely I'll only get to watch like the Sunday and Friday game, the national televised game that is. And also because this is a 11 game kind of week, that means there's always going to be one team that won the sweepstake of getting a bye week in this MLS week where all other team plays, and the winner of the sweepstake is RSL. So congratulations, RSL, you won the sweepstake as the only team in MLS this week that has a bye week, and I'm pretty sure every RSL fan would be happy that they're going to get a bye week after this, because it's been a brutal last couple of weeks for RSL that they have to literally travel across the other side of the country to play one of the toughest team in the Eastern Conference, and probably the toughest team in the Eastern Conference, that is TFC. And then they have to go back home, and then they have to go on the road again in the East Coast against the best team right now in MLS, NYCFC, in a midweek nevertheless. So certainly RSL, enjoy this bye week because you really need it. But either way, let's begin these kind of 11 games, and we start with the Friday game. We start with Philly versus Orlando City. Philly are winless since they won the first game of the season against the Revs, while Orlando City are just literally living life on the edge in the last 2 games. And I'm pretty sure Jason Christ's coaching career at Orlando City is like living on the edge pretty much. He is just playing with fire right now with his managerial career with Orlando City, and how many times they've been able to come back from potentially getting a loss or a draw in these games. And for this game, obviously Orlando City, many people will say that they should win this because Philly is just, they're not a very good team, okay? Philly is just really struggling right now, and this is kind of what we sort of expect from Philly, that they're gonna really struggle this year, even though they did acquire David Beckham in the off season, and they just don't really, like, guys like CJ Sapon and David Beckham are not really kind of like producing that much for Philly that they can potentially kind of score some goals and try to maybe outscore opponent, because we know Philly is, besides their attacking end, which is kind of like maybe their strength, the other end, the defense and the midfield, is a little bit iffy right now. And really, for Orlando City, this is probably the healthiest Orlando City has been all season. They have now got pretty much all 4 of those guys that they acquired in the last 2 transfer window. Guys like Dom Dwyer, Sasha Kleshin, Josue Coleman, and also who was the other guy, Justin Miram, back in. So there is absolutely no excuse anymore for Jason Christ saying that, we lost or drew this game because we had injury, because you have no injury anymore. And yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how this game is going to go. The other Friday game, Vancouver versus LAFC. The Whitecaps did lose their last match to RSL 2-1, and LAFC did concede another 5 goals against Atlanta. Well, actually not another 5 goals, but they concede 5 goals against Atlanta in a game that really didn't look like it was a 5-0 loss. And obviously, João Moutinho will not be available for this match for LAFC because he is suspended for that red card incident. And potentially, LAFC might get Omar Garber back. I know that he was injured for the last couple of weeks, so potentially they might get him back in this game. And, I think for LAFC, this is going to be a very interesting game because this is just 2 straight games in a row that they have conceded so many goals. Like, a lot of goals. And it's just like, after their hype that they have for the first 2 games, it sounds like the hype train wheels are starting to fall off with the way that they are in these last 2 games. And it's not going to be easy playing against the Whitecaps. The Whitecaps certainly want to get back to winning ways in this game after they were unfortunately could not quite get a league-high 3 third-row wins of the season. But yeah, it's going to be a very kind of interesting one. And also Vancouver also still have some injury to deal with. I'm not sure if Reyna is actually back for Vancouver. If he's back, then definitely Vancouver has a very good chance to win this. But for LAFC, they definitely need to respond after these just 2 back-to-back embarrassing games in a row for them. But now moving on into the Saturday game. This is actually an early one. This might be the only Saturday game that I'm able to watch since it's a 10 a.m. start, although I don't think I can wake up that early for this game. But it's the Red Bulls taking on the Impact. Obviously, the Red Bulls crash out of CCL by losing to Chivas 1-0. And I'm pretty sure Red Bulls fan will now know how I feel as a Quakes fan the other week ago when we play against NYCFC, and how we had so many opportunities to score a goal in that game and they didn't. They literally had every single, a million chances to potentially win that game or even just send it to extra time against Chivas, and they failed to do that. And, they drew 0-0, lose 1-0 overall on aggregate. So that's certainly disappointing because I was hoping the Red Bulls might be a team that kind of represent the US side of the MLS, and we don't really need a Canadian MLS team to, just win MLS the first ever CONCACAF Champions League kind of title. And Montreal, obviously, they got absolutely destroyed by the refs in the last game. And, the sending off, obviously, that was probably the reason why they got destroyed by New England. I mean, the fact that they just completely self-destruct and just give up 4 goals after that, it was bad, okay, for Montreal. And, this is not going to be easy for them to come back because the Red Bulls are certainly going to be coming into this game angry that they didn't score anything, and they certainly could definitely get ugly for Montreal if they are not careful. And also, I'm not quite sure if Montreal will have Piatti in this game. It's pretty clear that Piatti, with him not in that game against the Revs, was a huge loss for Montreal, and just his presence there was clearly shown. His presence that was not there was clearly shown in that game, and The Red Bulls definitely think they're going to be very angry, and they're definitely going to try to potentially get themselves back to winning ways. Next up, Colorado versus TFC. Now, on any given day, when you look at this match, you would think, oh, this is just a no-brainer. Toronto is going to completely roll over Colorado. And even though this is a road game for TFC, they're just going to completely roll them over because TFC is just godly right now. But what I think about this match and how I really think that TFC might have a chance to, or not TFC, but Colorado might have a chance to get something out of this, and probably maybe they can get a win out of this, because I'm pretty sure that 100% that Greg Vanney is not going to start most of his starters in this game against the Rapids. Considering the fact that they have this game coming up, the Champions League final game that is going to be at home on Tuesday, there is just no way in the world that TFC should start their strongest squad in this game. They might as well just play the kits in this game, and I'm pretty sure that for any TFC fan, and certainly for Greg Vanney, they don't really care if they, potentially are gonna lose this game and just kind of fell a little bit more behind in terms of their standings. And I kind of, today I also listened to the Extra Time Radio, and they talked about how, TFC, maybe this is probably like the regular season this year might be the time for them to kind of like catch a break, because TFC has played a lot of games since pretty much when they decided to make a huge run a couple of years ago and look completely the different TFC team as we known a couple of years ago. So maybe this time they're gonna take some break and just probably get into the playoffs as a top 4 team and just make damage from them, even though they're not going to get home field advantage. And the fact that they have a chance to win another trophy, and the fact that they can potentially win 4 trophies in a calendar year and win the quadruple, as you might call it, it is just impressive. But for Colorado, they got to take advantage of this. I mean, if the Rapids, like I said last week, if they want any chance of them potentially making the playoffs or getting even close to talking about playoffs, they need to win these games. And especially the fact that they have already dropped 5 points this season, either from a winning position or potentially getting a draw out of a game position. They need this really badly. Next up, Chicago versus the Galaxy. Now, this game is actually sold out. 27,000 seats for this game has been sold out, and some people will say that this is great support for Chicago. I mean, Chicago all of a sudden decided to show up in the game because we're playing LA, and wait a minute, Zlatan is going to be there, and I wonder why this game would be sold out when Zlatan comes to town. Oh yeah, that's right, because everybody's going to be there because of Zlatan. I mean, that is pretty much the reason. Zlatan can literally, LA can go to New England right now, and I'm not quite sure if they're going to go to Gillette Stadium this year, but they can go to New England, and New England would just sold out Gillette Stadium. It will, the hype of Zlatan coming into the league, and the fact that everybody want to see Zlatan. Zlatan can make a team that has poor attendance rate just go skyrocket, because that's what fans want to say. I mean, unless, the only non-surprising factor that the game gets sold out when Zlatan comes to town might be if it's like a market where it's always consistently gets sold out, like Atlanta and Portland and also Seattle, and even for the Quakes because of Cali Classico. If any other game is kind of sold out before those kind of markets that I mentioned, then it's probably because of Zlatan, and this of course is the case, and it's going to be interesting to see how they will stop him, because the Fire right now, their defense, they still do not have Mike Posner back from this. They still have so many injuries to worry about in terms of their midfield, their defense. And I just have a feeling that Zlatan is gonna have a field day against that really kind of weak kind of Chicago team. And Chicago, even though they got their first win against the Crew, it was a very lucky win. I mean, they had one shot on target in that game, and they still won that one. I don't know how they won that game. So this is a good chance for the Galaxy to bounce back on the road. And they lost 2-0 at home against Sporting KC, which I don't think there's any shame to that. Sporting KC is just a very, very good team. I think the only thing that the Galaxy will kind of have a little bit shame is the fact that they didn't look very good in that game against Sporting KC, and they just weren't clinical enough in that game against Sporting KC. But this is a chance for them to bounce back against a pretty kind of injury kind of riddled Chicago team. And yeah, certainly a chance for the Galaxy to get back to the winning side. Next up, DC United versus Columbus. This is actually the last game for DC United to play at home before they open Audi Field. They're actually going to be playing at Navy Marine Corps Stadium in Annapolis, and they're going to be playing against the Crew. And for DC, obviously, I don't know if you can say that this might be a must-win game, because it's hard to say that this is a must-win game for them, considering the fact that they are facing an opponent that are very good. And even though Columbus did lose to Chicago last week, they were very unlucky. I mean, they just had one of those days where they just couldn't finish. They just couldn't finish at all in that game against the Fire, and I'm pretty sure that they can probably put that day aside, and potentially they might have a field day against this DC United team that is like the worst team in the league right now. I mean, I know that some people will say that, well, what about Seattle and Portland, with the way that Seattle hasn't got a single point? But when you look at DC United and when you look at this team overall, it's just so bad. Like, the defense is an absolute mess. The midfield is also an absolute mess. And on the attacking end, I mean, Yasmil Assad has been at times been very decent for DC United, but he's not going to be just one guy that's just going to carry the whole team. Like, it feels like right now DC United are just relying on one guy, and that is Yasmil Assad. And even though they're trying to rely on him, if you don't give the ball to him or find him in some open space, then it's just doom for DC United right now. And I'm pretty sure teams figure out how, since DC are relying on Assad so much in this beginning of the season, that they just completely double team and just completely not let Assad any open space or any kind of chances for him to get the ball. Like, every time the ball comes to him, there's always going to be a defender that's just going to knock away from Assad, because they know he's the dangerous man. And it's sad time for DC United. And like I said, even though this seems like a must-win game, it's hard to call a must-win game when you kind of realize that the team you're facing that you have to win against is so much stronger than you. And that is probably the case, and I think Columbus can potentially win this and get back to winning ways. But either way, now moving on to the last 5 games. New England playing against FC Dallas. The Revs, tell you what, I think besides maybe NYCFC, and I'm not quite sure who is the other, Atlanta, for example, this is probably the hottest team in MLS right now. And it's shocking, the fact that I even say that phrase with New England, consider in the beginning of the season, everybody would write New England off as a team that is just not going to make the playoffs. Like, everything about that team is just so bad. And yet they have proved everybody wrong in these last couple of games. I think the reason why they've been proving everybody wrong is because they are playing attractive soccer, and they seems to have that very kind of fearless factor whenever they approach the game. I mean, I remember a couple of weeks ago when they play against NYCFC at home, and you would think that that would be a game where New England would just kind of like sit back and just pray that they don't concede a goal and maybe go on the counter attack. No, they just completely press NYCFC. They kind of play with that suicidal kind of press where, you know, if they give the ball away in a bad position, they are just doomed. And now it seemed like the team really kind of trusts each other, and that it has that kind of chemistry with this team. And that is something that you definitely did not expect in the beginning of the season. And also the fact that guys like Diego Fagundes and also Pinay also is stepping up big for this team. And yeah, the Revs have a very good chance to make it 5-game unbeaten and make it 12 unbeaten at home. I mean, Gillette Stadium, I'll tell you what, it might be an empty stadium. It might be a stadium that only 500 people showed up, but it's a damn good kind of fortress, even though nobody goes there at all. And for Dallas, you know, this is a big game for them, and I think this is a game that they either prove me wrong, the fact that I keep slating and kind of keep just criticizing Dallas with the fact that they're not good at all, even though they're one of the 2 unbeaten team right now. Or they just completely prove me right and say that this is why you shouldn't have dropped so many points at home. And if they lose this one, I'm just going to repeat the same thing. Like, I knew this was going to happen. I knew that FC Dallas, with the way that they did not get, like, a lot of points at home and just drop pretty much half of the points that they should be getting, or the maximum point that they could get at home in those first 4 games. And if they lose this one, yeah, it's going to be a long season for Dallas. I mean, I also look at their next couple of games. TFC, LAFC, LA Galaxy. I think they played the Galaxy twice, or I think LAFC twice. Yeah, it is a murderous road, and you have no one to blame but yourself, Dallas, for dropping all those games on the road. So, or not on the road, but at home. But either way, next up, Portland versus Minnesota. Oh, how Timbers fan can be so happy the fact that they are back home. I mean, you know, the Timbers are just, they are a team that, after what happened against Orlando, and just as you thought they were gonna reach the end of the tunnel all happy and just have a happy ending to just a really brutal road trip to start off the season, they decided to completely collapse and completely disciplinate in the last 10 minutes and lose to Orlando 3-2, and now coming into this game just so low on confidence. But the good news is, you know, Timbers are back at home, which is a place that they are really good at, and they're playing against a Minnesota team that, you know, I'm not quite sure exactly if their first ever DP, Darwin Quintero, is going to make a kind of debut in this game or not. I'm not sure if he's ready to actually start for this game. But yeah, you know, Portland, this is, talk about must-win games. In some of these games I talk about, this is really a must-win game for Portland. Like, to not get anything out of Minnesota at home, that is a very, very troubling sign. And I know some Timbers fans say that, well, we had a rough road kind of stretch, and, you know, it's once we get back home, everything should be okay. Yeah, but you need to win your home game first. Then we could maybe say everything is all right. Because right now, it's pretty clear that this team, not only they have a huge problem in their defensive end, but it just seems like their attacking end is not getting going at all too. I mean, Fernando Adi, what in the world is going on with him? Like, he looks like a shell of his former self right now. And I think ever since he came back from that long injury that he suffered last year, he has not looked like the same Fernando Adi. And you wonder, will the Timbers potentially have it kind of like out of patience with him and potentially bench him or something like that? And, for Timbers, this is desperate time. They have to win this. And for Minnesota, if they can spoil the party, then be my guest. Maybe Minnesota can definitely spoil the opener for the Timbers and just put them even in a deeper misery. But yeah, next up, so this game I already talked about it, and if you want more information about this game, and I'm not going to go too in depth, you just watch my match preview that I already did. But basically, like I said about must-win games for the Quakes, this is also a must-win game for them because we are also one of those teams that is off to a rough start, but I can say that the reason why we're off to such a rough start is because we have so many tough teams to face. And this is probably the easiest team besides Minnesota in the first week of the season that we might actually have a chance to win this. I mean, after this, we got back-to-back East Coast kind of road trip Eastern Conference team, and those Eastern Conference team is Orlando City and Columbus. Yeah, that is not easy. So this is an absolute must-win for the Quakes. They need to beat Houston. That is just, they don't look like the same Houston team that beat Atlanta 4-0. And I don't know, maybe this is kind of like what we expect Houston. I think that Atlanta game was just, it was just a one-off. Like, it was just, Atlanta just completely got shell-shocked in that game, and maybe Houston was clicking on all cylinder, and then they are starting to find out that this team is not as good as it was a year ago, and how some of the key pieces that they missed from last season is started to show with this team. But yeah, last two games, I'm not sure how many minutes we're on. I think we're almost at 30 minutes, but I promise that we're almost done with these games. And next one, Sporting KC versus Seattle. Now, if this game was late in the season, I think this would have been a pretty interesting game because Seattle might be in really good form in late part of the season, and Sporting KC might also be in a very good form, but because of the fact that Sporting KC right now is just probably the best team in the Western Conference right now, and Seattle is literally like the worst team right now in the Western Conference. I mean, both of this team is heading in opposite direction, with SKC going up and the Sounders just going rock bottom right now. I mean, they are rock bottom in pretty much every single category right now, in the Western Conference, in the overall standing, and also the points total. Only team in the league without a single point in their first 4 games. And you can say all about how you have injuries and stuff like that, but not scoring a single point, the fact that you went to the MLS Cup final last year, boy, Seattle has a long hangover, and this is just, I think this might be probably the worst start out of the 3 bad start that they had, or the 2 bad start they had the other 2 year. And to make matter worse for Seattle and to add insult to injury, they're not going to have Clint Dempsey for this game also. So the committee decided that we want to put one more game on Clint Dempsey because we think that kind of sarcastic clap that Dempsey always do whenever he gets sent off. Like, seriously, I don't know why he always does that. You are always going to be asking for trouble when you're doing that sarcastic kind of clap. But they decided to slap him with one more game, and I'm pretty sure the Sounders fan are absolutely pissed off about that because it's such a late kind of call. And in some way I kind of agree because, like, it's such, like, if you're going to add one more game into him, don't do it like before before 2 days before this big game, or 3 days before this big game against Sporting KC. I forgot this game is on Sunday. And it is what it is. I mean, like it or not, I mean, Clint Dempsey, he deserved what he does. The way that he just punched someone in the balls and decided to sarcastically clap, that just maybe is the reason why he got that additional suspension. But yeah, now moving on to the last game of this 11-game kind of schedule. I know I'm getting kind of exhausted talking about all of these games, but I kind of have to get used to it because I know there's going to be always 11 games every single week. It's not like last week where there's only like 8 games. But yeah, Atlanta versus NYCFC. This is probably the game of the week and probably maybe the game of the year. Now, I know the LA Derby might be the game of the year because of all the hypes and stuff like that, but these are two best team in the league right now going toe to toe each other. NYCFC bringing their undefeated record on the line to Mercedes-Benz Stadium to play against Atlanta team that have literally wiped off that 4-0 kind of embarrassment in the opening weekend and just decided to go Atlanta mode and some pretty much in these last couple of games. I mean, they have just shown pretty much no mercy to anybody in these last couple of games. Well, maybe besides Minnesota when they did get sent off in that game, but they have been showing no mercy. Like a 5-0 win against LAFC. I think they won 3-1 again. 3-1 against DC United, and I think they also got like a 4-0 win over another team. I cannot quite remember which team that is, but yeah, Atlanta is just red hot right now. But you know, this is interesting. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how this game is going to go. Obviously, NYCFC will get David Villa back healthy in this. And I'm pretty sure that it doesn't... Even if Villa is not in this game, I still think NYCFC is going to be tough. Because right now, NYCFC, you know, from what they've shown in that game against RSL, I mean, it just proves that this team not only is good in terms of having their starters, but they also are good in terms of having their bench player, and they're probably one of the most, if not the most deepest team right now in MLS. And, you know, Atlanta, with their high-flying scoring and stuff like that, can they, of course, trying to continue that trend? It's definitely going to be tougher against this NYCFC defense that is just going to be rocks. That has been pretty rock solid so far throughout these first 5 games. So, yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game. I recommend that if you have any time this week to watch kind of like soccer and stuff like that, this is the one that you gotta watch, because this is gonna be a fun game to watch, and I'm definitely gonna watch this one. This game is gonna be at 3 p.m. on Sunday. I think it's on FS1 here in the US. I'm not sure what is it in Canada. I think it might be TSN in Canada, but yeah, this is a very fun one to watch, so definitely don't want to miss out on that. And that is pretty much it for all 11 games that I have gone over. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, make sure you guys let me know in the comments your prediction for all 11 of these games. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time. I'll see you guys on Sunday for the match review and see which team kind of surprised me and which team kind of disappoint me, and who exactly is going to come out of this game, and whether or not if NYCFC unbeaten run will just gone up in smoke in this. So yeah, it's a very good weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed this video again, and I will see you guys next time.